Hey there, welcome back to another Nomad Rundown. Today we're going to be going through the clay and brush tools and better understand their differences and how you can use them to make your sculpts. Let's open a new Nomad scene and jump right in. The clay tool is a great place to start for building up form at a larger scale, while the brush tool will be for finer details. Let's go ahead and start with clay. It's not very precise, but it's great for sculpting in mass. I typically set this to a larger size of brush and use it for blocking out shapes. Even just starting from our default sphere here, you can see that it's great for building up dimension, and it's really fast and dirty. You can also select the subtract option here on the left. And now, my marks work subtractively and carve into the form. As the name suggests, the clay tool works a lot like, well, clay. Think of it like wiping on a fresh layer of wet clay on top of your surface, or carving it out in a similar way if you're subtracting. It doesn't care much about the details on the surface, but is rather focused on just getting the clay piled on. It's a really easy way to start building out your shapes and testing out some forms. It's helpful in Nomad to make use of shortcuts using Apple Pencil gestures or key shortcuts on the desktop version too. It's really helpful to set the subtract toggle to a keybind. You can find these controls within this upper menu under bindings. Locate this add sub binding and be sure it's set to pencil squeeze or a letter key if you're using desktop to make a shortcut here. Below the sub option is a quick access to the smooth brush. Using this side button to jump into the smooth tool is great, since it'll automatically scale the size of your brush to match the size and pressure you are already using in the clay tool. This makes it super easy to jump back and forth between carving out your form and smoothing it out again. This can also be set up with a keybind, which makes switching back and forth even more seamless. Now I can just deselect this smooth toggle from the side menu, and we're back in the context of our clay tool. I'm just going to undo all of this using two fingers so we can return to our original sphere. Now let's take a look at the brush tool, which I have set just below. The brush works nearly the exact same way, but is much more precise. As you sculpt with the brush tool, you'll immediately feel the difference. It's much more sensitive to your pressure and much more even and smooth. There's a very clear reason here to why it feels so much more precise. The brush pulls the surface outward based on its surface normal, meaning it pays attention to the direction and orientation of your surface. So, when the surface is sideways, like this one, the brush tool will pull it further sideways. Or, when things are straight on, like this, it will pull it straight out, like so. Meaning, you'll get more exact and careful movements while you're sculpting. It's harder to see on something more abstract and nonlinear like this, but I'll show it more clearly in just a moment. Similar to the clay tool, you have your sub toggle here, or you can squeeze your pencil to use the binding, to jump into subtractive mode and start to carve away like this. And of course, our smooth button is just below that to quickly jump into smoothing. You can see that either of these tools are a great way of developing form. By changing the size and other settings such as the alpha of the brush, you can start to picture how these two brushes can be used to develop detail and carve out your shape. And using the key bindings we talked about, it's easy to switch back and forth between a subtractive mark and also the smoothing brush to streamline your workflow. As I started to describe with the brush tool, there's a distinct difference between how these two tools process modeling. I'm going to turn off my symmetry here and use the clay tool on the left and brush tool on the right. I'm just going to start to make a series of marks to illustrate this important distinction. From here, it's pretty hard to tell them apart, but you'll start to understand their unique skills when we layer. Over on this clay side, I'm going to add a secondary crosshatch. Once this goes on, it almost melts on top of the forms beneath it and sort of washes a layer of clay over the existing dimension that we sculpted. When I do the same thing with the brush tool, you'll notice that it preserves the underlying geometry because it pays attention to those surface normals, pulling out geometry in a way that follows the rolling direction of the surface, outward at multiple unique angles. This is shown well in this overlapping, where the additional brush mark extends the surface outwards separately at each point, giving you an expanding of each surface angle. whereas the clay tool works more similarly to the flatten tool, which we'll cover in a separate video. It spreads on a layer of clay, which can get rid of the detail that's below it. I hope that this has given you a better idea of how to use these brushes. Have some fun swapping back and forth between the clay and brush tools, using the clay tool to block out your forms, and then the brush tool to make things pop more and have direction. It can be helpful before switching between these two to use the optional remesh tool in order to have a more even topology once you get into the brush tool. Now that our topology follows the forms that we were starting to carve out, the brush tool works much better because of its reliance on the directional normals of the form. Now, when you use the brush tool, things feel like they go in the direction you intend them to, much more than before we remeshed. Have some fun here and keep using these tools. It can be really fun to create some extreme geometric shapes, just using the clay, brush, and of course the quick smooth tools. Next, we'll be talking about the move and drag tools, which can be really fun to use and get you even more extreme shapes. We'll also have a dedicated video on the smooth tool and how to use textured alphas to get a more unique, smoothed finish when you have more complicated shapes. Be sure to check out my breakdown of all the other tools in Nomad and my workflow walkthroughs as well. That's all for this video. I hope you found it helpful, and I'll see you in the next part. See you soon. Peace.